Okay, so we've talked about being at the top and we've talked about being in the low power positions. If we could just put ourselves in the middle now, middle management, and now you are really trying to build organizational effectiveness, and you have some meeting of a mind with your boss. They feel the same way you do about loyalty and about saying what you creating an environment in which people will say what they think and feel at all times, but your peers are not happy about this. And often in a large organization, there's the middle manager who's the director of billing, and there's the director of manufacturing, and there's the director of marketing, and they all have potentially competing and difficult sort of interwoven responsibilities to each other, but no reporting to each other. Is there something that you would recommend for building organizational effectiveness among a group like that? What do you do in that middle management place? Just some easy problems for today.
Yeah. No, I think this is as difficult as the hierarchy problem. And I would generalize to say that those middle people you're talking about are probably representatives of the departments that you put them in.
Yeah.
That's what their job is to essentially represent their departments in discussions about the task, whether it's building a car or taking care of patients. Yeah. And another barrier to this, to saying what you're thinking and feeling, is the historical and current relationships between these different groups. So you gave one, which is they may be competitive with each other. And not just interpersonally competitive, they may be competitive in terms of budgets. Right. They may be competitive in terms of other kinds of resources. They may be competitive in terms of pathways to greater responsibility. So they may be competitive with each other. They may have long histories of, because of their specialization, of the different groups mistrusting the other group's perspective on the shared task. So you get a lot of strategic and quote-unquote hidden agenda behavior between the two groups, which is exactly antithetical to what I'm describing as organizational effectiveness. And as a digression, this is what many people who come to an organizational psychologist will say. They're saying the threat to our organizational effectiveness is these siloed natures of the different groups. Yep. And they're not able to communicate with each other. Now, my interpretation of that is that what people are saying is people are not actually talking to each other. They're not saying what they think and feel, positive, negative, about their shared task, which is delivering healthcare or making a car, because they're so committed to the groups to which they belong that they tailor what they say in order to advantage one group or another.
Well, we're telling people all the time to be strategic. We're building strategic leadership. We're saying this is a high-level idea of how to do this. So if you take that to the different silos, it's no wonder that someone might say, well, I'm going to get more in the department we need, and that's important to the whole task, if I just share this piece of information, but not this other piece.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a huge threat to organizational effectiveness, and it's almost rampant. Almost every person in charge of any organization, large or small, will complain about the fact that things aren't going well, which usually means decisions aren't being made as well as they could because different groups, lateral groups, are not leveling with each other, communicating, involving each other when they should, et cetera. Is a huge problem. And the answer that I would give to this is not a quick and dirty one, which is why nobody asks me to do this very often, which is to say you don't solve this problem with a slogan or with a meeting. You solve this problem with lots of attention both to the historical and the current relationship between these groups that may be natural, set up by the organization. It's not pathological. We tend to pathologize these difficult relationships between groups when we have created them in order to serve the organization. So we spend 20 years training a physician so that they're really good at being a physician, and that means they have trouble understanding the contribution of other groups who have been trained for 10 or 15 years in what they do. But if we didn't train them to be really good at what we couldn't accomplish the shared organizational task. But once we do, they're speaking different languages. They're looking at each other's credentials differently. They've been trained in their roles and not in anybody else's roles. So the intervention is quite long-term, and it has to do with A, understanding the history of the groups, and B, regularly checking in on what the tensions are that have been created by the structure of the way we deliver healthcare or make cars. There is no way to have organizations, I don't believe, without having sub-units that are bounded, departments. We do that well. What we don't do well is invest in their relationships with each other, which are going to become strained and difficult because they were raised in different professional environments.
Well, it's been tremendous to talk with you, David, as always. And I think from this, we're really learning about how to make organizations more effective. Not an easy task, but something really valuable to do, particularly in healthcare. Thanks for your time.
Yep.